You know, usually when there's not that many people here, some preachers will shorten their message up. And I'm not going to do that tonight. You're going to get the full load. And we are in the 5th month, so we're working on step 5. We've been working hard on our steps since January. We've talked about the struggles of doing step 4 last month, and it is a struggle doing step 4. We have to be rigorously honest, and if we are rigorously honest doing step 4 and going into a deep dive, it will take us sometimes a lot of effort and a lot of work to get through that step 4, because we're bringing up things that we don't want to remember. We're ripping scabs off of wounds that we have, and we're writing them down on a piece of paper. It makes us, from time to time, a bit itchy, bitchy, and twitchy. And so we need to work on it, not procrastinate, but maybe take a break from it every now and again, because sometimes it's just too much for us. Anyway, step 5, we'll do it step 4. We're getting to step 5 is admitting to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. The 5th step is essential to the fundamental change of personality required to overcome an alcohol, a drug addiction, or any other compulsive disorder that we may have. It works well for any other habit that comes into our life. It is in its simplest form. The 5th step is basically a confession of personal wrongdoings and the beginnings of your spiritual house cleaning. I've often referred to it as having a spiritual peak. So I think Thomas understands what that's all about, right? The nakedness here is not mere, just a minute. I think I missed a page. I did. Although in step 4 we admitted the exact nature of our wrongs, the process of clearing away the wreckage of our past will not be complete until we have shared those wrongs with another person in our 5th step. Including a well-chosen person to be part of this healing process helps us to become aware of our own self-delusions, where we have not been totally honest and where there are patterns of destructive thoughts and behaviors. And I caution all of you to choose wisely who you share your 5th step with, and really recommend that you do it with a pastor, with somebody from the Mount, or some other person that has done a lot of 5th steps. Often you're encouraged to do it with your sponsor, and I will suggest to you that unless you totally 100% trust your sponsor, trust that he won't throw something back in your face, trust that he won't talk about what you're sharing, then do it with somebody else, okay? I could go on for the next 20 minutes on horror stories of people doing 5th steps with the wrong people. And if you're going to do a true in-depth 5th step, and you're going to share those deepest, darkest secrets that you've always sworn you'll take to the grave with you, you need to do it with somebody you trust. You need to do it with somebody that isn't going to hold it against you, is not going to judge you. I've said many times that step 4 and 5 are the start of the true healing process. It's really the start. We built a foundation in steps 1, 2, and 3. Steps 4, you start looking at all your behaviors, all the things that you've done. And then step 5, you talk about them. So you built the firm foundation. That's what we were talking about this morning with this church. The cornerstone of the church that was laid 119 years ago on a firm foundation is why this church is still standing here. Our program is no different. We need to set that foundation and then start working on doing our housekeeping. The scripture I chose this week is Genesis 2, verse 25. And it says this, "And the man and his wife were both naked and were not ashamed." The nakedness here is not merely physical, but psychological. Adam and his wife were totally transparent to one another. They had no secrets, and they had no shame. Having secrets robs us of sanity. The more secrets we have, the more stories we have to invent to keep our secrets secret, the more stories we have to invent and then remember. That's the big part, is remembering them and keeping them straight, the more insane our lives become. Living with secrets, our lives become secretive, and the truth is so deeply buried in a mound of lies that passes as life that we have no real life at all. It wasn't until we admitted our addiction to ourselves and surrendered to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and all the other 12-step programs, that we were able to stop using or drinking or our other compulsive behaviors. The same holds true with the admission that we make in the 5th step. Until we honestly share and understand the exact nature of our wrongs, we are not likely to have the willingness or the ability to choose another way of living. I can tell you that sitting with another person and with God and sharing the 5th step can be really, really freeing. It will actually set you free. So take a deep breath, say a prayer, pocket your pride, and illuminate every twist of character and every dark cranny of your past. In revealing your most distressing memories to another person, be as honest as possible with that person, looking at who you are and who you would like to become in the future. Be vulnerable and don't hold back. Sharing our inventory with another person who can listen with compassion gives us the opportunity to free our minds and our hearts, and then to be open to receive unconditional love. Yep, you heard me. No matter what you've done, you won't be judged and you won't be shamed. While working step 5, the repetition of the same type of situation and pattern of behavior reveals itself quite obviously. We begin to focus attention on what is behind the patterns of our addiction and the reasons we act out in the ways that we do. This is a great point in recovery where we can start calling these patterns and behaviors defects of characters, and often referred to as shortcomings as well. Destructive behaviors usually reflect underlying character defects, which is the engine that drives most of our off-the-wall actions. This very effectively leads us into steps 6 and 7 when we begin an in-depth examination of each of our defects and how they play a role in keeping us sick. And then we ask God or our higher power to remove every single one of our defects of character. Why should we do a 5th step? In case the above wasn't obvious enough, you should do it because there are certain damaging memories or beliefs that can only live in the dark, and shining a light on them can banish them for good. An alcoholic leads a double life worthy of an Oscar award most of the time. More so than most people, the alcoholic is an actor who presents the character to the outside world that they want others to see. After completing step 5 of AA, we no longer have to do this. Once we have completed this step, we're able to look the world in the eye, let our fears fall away, and feel at perfect peace and perfect at ease on the broad highway, walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. But don't just take it from me. Check out what the big book, AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, has to say, working step 5, and from page 72 and 73, it says this: we will be more reconciled to discussing ourselves with another person when we see good reasons why we should do so. The best reason first. If we skip this vital step, we may not overcome our drinking. Time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves certain facts about their lives. Trying to avoid this humbling experience, they have turned to easier methods, often referred to easier, softer ways. Almost invariably, they got drunk. Having persevered with the rest of the program, they wonder why they fell. We think the reason is that they never completed their house cleaning. They took their inventory all right, but hung on to some of the worst items in stock. They often thought that they had lost their egoism and their fear. They only thought that they had humbled themselves, but they hadn't. They had not learned enough of humility, fearlessness, and honesty in the sense we find it necessary until they told someone else their full story. If you've been thinking about doing your 5th step and perhaps putting it off, keep in mind that laying it all out there on the table provides a great opportunity to finally let go of all your stuff. You get to flush out the cobwebs of your past that have kept you stuck. Here are some questions that might help guide you through this process and prepare you before going to do your fifth step. How long have I been alone with my secrets and wrongs? How do I feel about admitting my wrongs or my secrets to another? Am I ready to share and let go of anything that hinders my recovery? What reservations do I have about working my fifth step? Can I acknowledge and accept the exact nature of my wrongs? Did I set a time and a place for my fifth step? When and where? Don't let procrastination get in the way. Has my relationship with a higher power changed as a result of working the fifth step? How has my view of myself changed after working this step? Did I forget or admit anything? If I'm still clinging to something that doesn't work, am I willing to ask for help to let it go? Your drastic self-appraisal is done. Congrats. You've taken an action to sweep away the debris that has accumulated while living a life run on self-will. Get ready to expect the unexpected. After living in fear of the other shoe falling or dropping for so long, you may be pleasantly surprised to find out what begins in pain ends in serenity. This is an interesting paradox of recovery. You'll probably feel for the first time that you are able to acknowledge that you are okay, just as you are, right in this moment. By accepting yourself as you are today, it doesn't mean that you're going to stop striving for improvement. You will now be free to go further in your life than you've ever gone before. In my experience, the true magic is that all of our relationships begin to change as a result of working the fifth step, not just with ourselves and other people, but also with your higher power, whatever that might be to you. So, like Adam and his wife, you are now naked and without shame. You have shared your secrets, and your life is about to change. With each step we take in the program of AA, NACA, whatever 12-step program you're in, we deepen our real, practical commitment to the program and to recovery. Getting a sponsor, working the steps, finding a home group, having a commitment to moving forward and going to meetings. Each one of these very simple actions keeps us on a path of freedom, a new way of living. Keep working your program. Head into step 6 and discover these defects of character. I want to just take a moment now, just as we're wrapping up, and it's working out time-wise just really good. Something's about to happen here at Central. Many of you last week took a survey about our church becoming an affirming church. Remember that little piece of paper we passed around or took around? And for the most part, most of you said yes. As you may know, that's not the vote, though. Hang on. That started last week. I wanted to say that there's a difference between being a welcoming church, which I believe we are, a very welcoming church, and an affirming church. I believe we've been a welcoming church since day one, and we welcome everybody here, no matter who you are, no matter your sexual orientation, your background, whether you have faith or not, whether you have a criminal record or not. We don't care. Everyone is welcome here in this church. However, members of the LGBTQ community have the right, like the rest of us, to feel safe. They have the right to feel protected. They have the right to feel loved in this faith community and in this sanctuary. They should have all the rights and privileges that the rest of us and the rest of the members of this church have, and they should have them without judgment, okay? And without any kind of prejudice. So one of our fundamental needs in life, I believe, is to love and to be loved. And I believe that is everyone's fundamental right. And I also believe if two people love one another and want to get married, they should be allowed to do that. We will be having a vote coming up, likely, I'm not sure, Edie or June, maybe? Do you think? Don't assume, but it's coming. Anyway, we're going to talk about it a bit more as we go along. But we will have a vote, and I'm hoping to convince the board, through Bill, I've been pushing him, that rather than just do one meeting after the morning service when this vote comes, that maybe we do a vote after the morning service and a vote after the evening service here. I would like everyone to have the opportunity to voice their opinion on what they would like. So I'm just kind of opening that up. If any of you have questions about it, if any of you have concerns about it, feel free to come and talk to Thomas and I after the service, or at any time. It doesn't have to be just after the service. But I have always been a believer that everyone, and I mean everyone, should be welcome here without judgment, and they should feel safe and have the same rights and privileges as all of us. So with that, join me in the closing prayers. Okay. Go, step 7 prayer. My Creator, I'm now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.